Hey there, Retro fans! Welcome back to RGF Retro Game Force. You know, I'm a big fan of the Street Fighter franchise, but in the whole library of games that Street Fighter has, my favorite is the Street Fighter Alpha 2, mainly because of nostalgia. The first time I saw this game in the arcades, I was really impressed. The graphics, the sounds, and the gameplay were amazing. And back then I thought to myself, only the new generation of consoles are able to have a proper port of Street Fighter Alpha 2. And when the ports eventually came out, even the PlayStation had some cuts in some animations. So when I heard about a Super Nintendo port, I just said, no way Nintendo. So today I want to take a look into the impossible port of Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the Super Nintendo. In June of 1995, Capcom released a game called Street Fighter Zero, finally a proper sequel for their high popular Super Street Fighter 2. Well, story-wise it was a prequel, but technically it was the successor, and even making use of Capcom new hardware board, the CPS-2. The demand from this Street Fighter Zero was so high that Capcom needed to do a downgraded version to fit on their CPS-1 arcade board, but this is a story for another time. Street Fighter Zero, or should I say Street Fighter Alpha, because Street Fighter Alpha was the name that the game had outside of Japan, was ported to the new generation of consoles, the Sony PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. But for different reasons, the game was not performing like Capcom was expecting. So Capcom went back and built up a sequel, making full use of the 2D capabilities of the CPS-2 boards. What we got was a game with much better graphics, with awesome pixel art, astonishing backgrounds, and also awesome soundtrack with some remixes from some old tunes and much more characters to select, play and enjoy. Street Fighter Alpha 2 was released in February of 1996 and it was considered to be one of the best games of that year. And with a great game, it comes also great ports, right? The PlayStation and Saturn also had ports for this game, but even the new generation consoles were struggling to make an arcade-perfect port. Nintendo wasted no time, they wanted to give something special to their customers, and the Super Nintendo was the platform that always offered good ports for the arcade Capcom games. So Capcom and Nintendo teamed up and decided to port Street Fighter Alpha 2 for the 16-bit system of Nintendo. After all, Nintendo 64 had only been released in Japan for the 96 holiday season. When the development started, one thing was for sure: if they wanted to have the game with viable costs, they need to use a 32 megabit card. And so how the hell would they fit a game like this in such a small cartridge? One solution that they were considering is to do like they did before with the Final Fight ports. They could cut in characters, and this means less backgrounds, less scenarios, less audio, and also less cutscenes. But Nintendo didn't accept this option, and the solution found was compression. But how the CPU of Super Nintendo could handle a decompression in real time? Well, it couldn't. The solution found was to use a co-processor only to handle the graphics decompression. The used chipset was the SDD1. With this compression, everything could fit: all the characters, all the backgrounds, all the audio, all the endings, all the cutscenes, or more or less all the cutscenes, could fit into a Super Nintendo cartridge. Of course, still some graphical cuts needed to be done, but this was not new both for Capcom and Nintendo. They had done it in the past. The development team had to apply a reduction both on characters and background sprites, and also the audio had to be very much compressed to fit into this cartridge size. So in December of 1996, Street Fighter Alpha 2 was released to the Super Nintendo. And no one believed it, but all the moves, all the characters, everything was there. And even with this great achievement, the reviews were mixed, mainly because of the loading times and the lack of audio quality. But I think people didn't understood that this game should not be possible to run in this hardware. And because of the really special implementation and making use of the chip SDD1, it took some years before it could be possible to play this game over emulation. For me, it was a great achievement to have a brilliant port of Street Fighter Alpha 2 that plays so well on the Super Nintendo hardware. It was indeed an impossible port. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and leave me your comments, your thoughts on the comment section below. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get more retro gaming videos. And as usual, until the next video, take care and bye bye.